Our crimson-haired champion flashes a grin, oozing pure confidence before the big fight. A monstrous dragon, wreathed in inferno, unleashes a terrifying roar upon the party. Undaunted, the warrior dashes towards the fiery beast, sword poised for glory. The blue-haired mage boldly declares her intent to join the perilous assault. An elder, clearly alarmed, issues a desperate command to halt their advance. Meanwhile, a skilled sorceress weaves an intricate magic circle, aiming to amplify their power. Silhouetted by the full moon, the hero soars, targeting the colossal dragon's head. His diminutive winged companion fervently cheers for his success. His gaze sharpens with intense focus, channeling all his will into the impending blow. He lunges towards the dragon's blazing maw, convinced this attack will seal their victory. His companions watch with bated breath, their faces alight with hope for his success. And succeed he does, standing victorious upon the vanquished beast, a true dragon slayer. Later, the party rests by a crackling fire, the colossal dragon now a surprisingly cozy windbreak. The elder briefs him on their next formidable foe, another dragon, as the hero eagerly awaits the details. The serene sorceress offers a gentle smile, her faith in their champion unwavering. He glances towards her, a silent acknowledgement passing between them, a bond forged in battle. With a confident smirk, he seeks her assurance that their collective strength will see them through. But a chilling question hangs in the air, hinting at a tragic turn of events. A stark image of a stained hand foreshadows the grim reality that awaits. The hero stares in disbelief, a devastating injury marking a shocking betrayal of his earlier confidence. He gasps, reeling from the attack, his former allies now casting ominous shadows over him. The blue-haired mage coldly announces their sudden, shocking parting of ways with the hero. Bloodied and bewildered, he struggles to understand why his own comrades have turned against him. His formidable S-rank endurance earns a detached comment from the blue-haired mage amidst the betrayal. The elder then reveals a crucial piece of the puzzle. The kingdom itself has placed a bounty on the hero. Clutching his grievous wound, he desperately demands an explanation for this cruel treachery. The sorceress, her back to him, offers a hollow plea for forgiveness to the fallen champion. She claims this betrayal pains them too, her expression unreadable as she speaks of shared sorrow. Enraged and in agony, he bellows his desperate question, demanding the true reason for their actions. The final devastating truth is delivered. They attacked him because they perceive him as a monster. The elder recounts how the hero, their sole S-rank warrior, had been the bulwark against monstrous threats. With those threats now diminished, the sorceress implies the hero himself has become their next concern. Her hands clench subtly, betraying the inner turmoil behind their drastic actions. The sorceress's eyes fix on him, delivering the cold accusation, he is the monster. The elder explains their fear. If a single dragon can fell a kingdom, what of the man who slays dragons alone? His sharp gaze reinforces their grim logic. The hero possesses the power to destroy them all. The betrayed hero furiously refutes any possibility of him ever turning against the kingdom. The sorceress chillingly suggests that while he might be loyal now, the future is uncertain. Adding insult to injury, the blue-haired mage takes possession of the hero's fallen sword. He can only watch, bloodied and broken, as his own weapon is aimed menacingly at him. His own holy sword, now a symbol of ultimate betrayal, is reflected in his disbelieving eye. The blue-haired mage's grip tightens on his weapon, ready to deliver a final cruel blow. With a swift hand gesture, the elder prepares to unleash a binding spell upon the fallen hero. Magical chains erupt, ensnaring the hero as he desperately reaches out, his shock palpable. His former comrades coldly observe his suffering, the elder claiming this capture is their twisted form of mercy. Bound and bleeding, the hero glares at the elder, his face a mask of agony and utter betrayal. Even his once loyal winged companion now mocks his S-rank power, finding his current state pathetic. The blue-haired mage gazes at the elder, awestruck by the sheer power of the binding magic. A flicker of something unreadable crosses the blue-haired mage's face, perhaps a hint of doubt. The hero desperately questions if this whole nightmare is a mistake, his plea meeting the mage's own bewildered expression. The blue-haired mage hesitates, her face a mask of conflict as the elder looms behind her. A chilling directive flashes, demanding the hero's immediate end. Steeling herself, the blue-haired mage raises her wand, preparing to strike the chained hero. The hero gazes up, his bloodied face etched with disbelief at her apparent betrayal. Tears stream down the blue-haired mage's face, revealing her profound anguish and inner turmoil. The serene sorceress steps into view as the elder and winged companion watch the unfolding drama. The elder observes the blue-haired mage's struggle, deeming the grim task too much for her to bear. The sorceress calmly offers to complete the deed, and the elder grimly consents. Now wielding the hero's own holy sword, the sorceress prepares to deliver the final, decisive action. She levels the gleaming blade at the bound hero, coolly inquiring about any final sentiments. The sorceress, eyes wide with chilling resolve, lifts the hero's own sword high for the final blow. His crimson eye burns with an unforgettable promise, a vow to remember this ultimate betrayal. With a devastating arc of light, the holy sword descends upon its former master. The hero crumples, his lifeblood staining the ground, the magical chain still cruelly binding him. A single tear escapes his fading gaze, a silent testament to his profound despair. Mystical fiery feathers drift downwards, signifying a dramatic and perhaps transformative end. As his consciousness wanes, he recalls the blessings that define power in their world. He remembers his companions, the strongest adventurers, each empowered by a unique, miraculous blessing. The elder, sage Ortram Hashpal, wielded the Great Spirit's blessing, while the mage, Ella Claire, held the demon lord's. And the saintess, Lisha Marente, who asked for his last words, possessed the blessing of the goddess. Even impaled, his chained hands clutched the very sword that struck him down. His crimson eye blazed, Luke Othide silently vowing to remember this treachery. He recalled his own unique power, the blessing of the phoenix, a divine bird granting immortality. This fiery miracle meant one simple, earth-shattering truth. He absolutely could not die. 3 months later, the scene shifts to the remote, peaceful land of Azima. But tranquility shatters as terrified villagers face a swarm of monstrous, oversized wasps. A mysterious masked figure in a dark robe steps forward, shielding a pink-haired girl from the aerial menace. He's known as Lugo, a supposed villager standing with Lilim, the village apothecary. The fearsome insects are identified as demonic killer bees, a deadly threat to the unprepared. Lugo calmly instructs Lilim to stay back, and she readily agrees, trusting his lead. Lugo channels fiery energy into his outstretched palm, a familiar power awakening. His eyes blaze crimson as he announces the commencement of a fiery pest extermination upon the monstrous bees. He directs his incinerating power towards the massive nest, engulfing it completely in a decisive gesture. Villagers roar with approval, utterly amazed by Lugo's single-handed annihilation of the wasp threat. Lilim watches, dumbfounded, realizing she's never witnessed such overwhelming magical force before. As Lugo departs, Lilim observes him with a thoughtful expression, her mind racing with questions. Her suspicions about Mr. Lugo intensify as she focuses on his enigmatic masked face and glowing eye. The scene transitions to a peaceful village dwelling, a stark contrast to the recent chaos. Inside, Lilim emphatically expresses her certainty that there's more to Lugo than meets the eye. She approaches an elderly man, likely the village head, ready to share her pressing concerns about their mysterious protector. Lilim exclaims to the elder that Mr. Lugo's strength is overwhelmingly immense. She specifically recalls the devastating spell he unleashed to obliterate the killer bee nest. Lilim recounts Lugo's recent heroic deeds, like single-handedly dispatching a wolf pack and intimidating a cyclops with a mere look. She continues, remembering how he effortlessly dismantled an entire gang of thieves in a single night. The elder acknowledges the village's newfound peace due to Lugo, but Lilim, clearly agitated, insists his presence is highly unusual. She points out a suspicious coincidence. Lugo appeared just as the S-rank adventurer Lord Luke reportedly perished 3 months ago. Lilim leaps to a shocking conclusion, suggesting Lugo might be Luke's killer, hiding his identity and a bounty under that helmet. The village elder's eyes narrow, seriously contemplating Lilim's dramatic accusation. He slyly suggests that if her wild theory holds, she'd be utterly powerless against such a man, a point Lilim vehemently confirms. The elder strokes his chin thoughtfully, preparing to address Lilim's mounting suspicions. The elder declares his philosophy is to never turn away those who come seeking refuge. He then questions if anything bad has truly happened since Mr. Lugo's arrival, noting the village's increased liveliness, but Lilim remains skeptical. Undeterred, Lilim announces her intention to investigate Lugo personally and inquires about his current location. The elder casually mentions sending Lugo to handle a black bear, prompting Lilim's frustration at his nonchalant monster dispatching requests. Resolved, Lilim ventures alone into the dense forest, embarking on her clandestine mission. She gracefully extends her hand, preparing to invoke a subtle form of guidance. Lilim closes her eyes, earnestly beseeching a minor spirit to lead her to the enigmatic Mr. Lugo. Tiny, glowing motes of light dance around her hands, a sign her spiritual plea has been acknowledged. With a newfound confidence, she also tasks the spirit with warning her of any approaching monsters before proceeding. Lilim dashes through the woods, certain that even the formidable Lugo must have moments of vulnerability, and she's determined to expose his secrets. Lilim's eyes widen in surprise as her guiding spirit leads her deeper into the woods. Peeking through the foliage, she spots Lugo sitting alone in a sun-dappled clearing. Crouching low, Lilim speculates whether the formidable Lugo is actually napping or perhaps meditating. Her stealthy approach proves futile, as Lugo appears directly behind her, having anticipated her arrival. Lilim recoils in astonishment, utterly baffled by his instantaneous relocation from the clearing. Lugo coolly clarifies that the figure she observed was just an afterimage, now slowly dissipating. A flustered Lilim exclaims that such abilities are far beyond any normal villager, while Lugo seems amused. Lugo turns the tables, pointedly questioning Lilim's presence in the dangerous forest. Sweating nervously, Lilim stammers that she was merely concerned about his black bear hunt. She scoffs at his claim of using simple traps, knowing even elite knights find black bears a terrifying challenge. Lugo, with a confident stance, invites Lilim to observe his method. He casually presents a honey-filled beehive acquired earlier as the perfect lure. Lugo kneels, channeling gravity magic to form a dark, inescapable pit beneath the bait. He declares the simple trap complete, leaving Lilim astounded by his effortless display of advanced magic. Lugo abruptly signals Lilim to conceal herself, sensing their quarry is near. From their hiding spot, they watch the gravity-laden pit, the beehive innocently placed at its center. A formidable black bear, adorned with glowing blue accents, emerges from the dense woods. The bear's eyes immediately lock onto the honey, transforming into adorable heart shapes. With an eager roar and tongue lolling, the massive beast charges headlong for the sweet prize. The unsuspecting bear tumbles straight into the gravity trap, leaving Lilim utterly flabbergasted by the outcome. Lilim gawks as the bear is instantly neutralized, while Lugo casually notes another one approaching. Suddenly, a mountain of black bears appears, prompting Lugo to muse about bear stew for dinner. The reflection of numerous defeated bears in Lilim's eye underscores her utter astonishment at his feat. She turns to Lugo, her mind reeling from the display of overwhelming power she just witnessed. Lilim's expression intensifies as she silently demands to know who this enigmatic man truly is. Lugo's masked visage with its piercing red eyes offers no answers, only deepening the mystery. The scene shifts, a quill pen writing about the 3-month disappearance of the world's sole S-rank adventurer, Lord Luke Audihide. Lilim, now at a desk, chronicles the alarming rise of monstrous threats across the globe since Luke's vanishing. Her writings detail the grim reality. Fields are ravaged by these encroaching dangers. The narrative continues, illustrating how livestock are stolen, leaving communities vulnerable and struggling. Lilim's journal grimly illustrates the complete breakdown of production and distribution. She records with a heavy heart how these devastating effects have now reached their own village. Her writing confirms the creeping crisis has finally touched the village of Azima, seen under a somber moon. Lilim recoils in disbelief, learning a vital supply carriage was ambushed nearby. A shaken merchant details their terrifying silph encounter, prompting Lilim to investigate immediately. She peers into a ransacked crate, her expression hardening at the sight of the pillaged goods. Their crucial medicine supply is completely gone, the remaining herbs smashed beyond use. Lilim despairs, her ability to tend to the sick now critically undermined by the losses. Danger strikes alarmingly close as a sharp projectile whistles past Lilim's startled face. An old woman's panic over vanished sweet buns highlights the dire scarcity, deepening Lilim's concern for the village. Lilim attempts to console the distraught old woman, inquiring if any buns remain in the village. The old woman vehemently refutes Lilim's casual inquiry, her reaction startling the young healer. With dramatic flair, the elder proclaims the missing buns are S-rank delicacies, vital for her existence, piquing Lilim's curiosity. As Lilim contemplates trying these legendary buns, Mr. Lugo arrives, questioning the commotion. Lilim begins to update Lugo on the silph attack and the plundered supply carriage. Lugo casually strolls in, effortlessly carrying a towering stack of wooden crates, much to Lilim's amazement. The distressed merchant gapes, recognizing the crates as his stolen cargo. Lugo calmly states he encountered some silphs causing trouble near the village and retrieved their loot. A relieved Lilim praises Lugo, now hopeful she can finally prepare the needed medicines. The villagers, including Lilim and the old woman, eagerly gather around the recovered crates, ready to inspect the contents. Lilim, holding a recovered crate, notices Lugo's silent dissatisfaction and asks if something is amiss. Lugo, his red eyes glinting, declares the retrieved goods are far too few. He observes that the carriage's capacity suggests a much larger original shipment. Suddenly, Lilim gasps in alarm, her eyes wide with a new dreadful realization. The old woman, rummaging through a crate, wails that her precious sweet buns are nowhere to be found. A horrified Lilim spins around, a terrible suspicion dawning on her. She frantically checks another crate, confirming her vital medicine supplies are also gone. Lugo's masked expression darkens as he curses the thieving silphs under his breath. His hand clenches into a tight fist, betraying his rising irritation with the situation. A sudden tremor shakes the ground, startling Lilim and the merchant, but Lilim senses it's something else entirely. Lilim feels the chilling pressure. Mr. Lugo's legendary fury is now fully unleashed. His crimson eyes burn through the mask accusingly, while Lilim desperately urges him to cool it. Lugo storms off, declaring his intent to reclaim every single missing item, no matter the cost. He sharply questions Lilim's sudden interest in tagging along, met with her feigned innocence. Lilim internally panics, envisioning Lugo's temper accidentally launching their entire village into orbit. The pair proceeds into the ominous woods, an unspoken challenge hanging in the air. A smug sylph flits into view, taunting Mr. Black Helmet for daring to return. This sylph, Pisha, cackles about her master plan, brimming with traps set just for him. Lugo merely raises a hand, unimpressed by Pisha's threats of impending doom. A blinding flash erupts from Lugo's palm, blasting the overconfident sylph into the stratosphere. Pisha crashes face first into the dirt, utterly defeated, as Lilim watches in stunned silence beside the imposing Lugo. Lugo, unimpressed, lifts the dazed sylph by her head, demanding an audience with her queen, while Lilim internally notes his terrifying demeanor. A subdued Pisha, now under Lugo's control, nervously guides him and Lilim into the depths of the great tree forest. The sylph reveals her queen's lair is hidden deep within, offering a map supposedly marking all the traps. A crudely drawn map reveals numerous red X's hinting at the perilous path ahead. Pisha, attempting a charming plea, begs the mighty Black Helmet for her freedom now that she's cooperated. Lugo's masked visage remains unmoved as he delivers a curt, unequivocal denial to her request. The sylph bursts into tears, terrified of the queen's wrath should she return empty-handed or fail. Pisha dramatically details the gruesome fate awaiting her, involving wing-plucking and frog-feeding, much to Lilim's discomfort. Lilim, moved by pity, cautiously suggests to Lugo that they no longer need their captive guide now that they possess the map. Pisha brightens, praising Lilim's understanding, as Lugo maintains his stoic grip on the sylph. Lugo's grip shifts, causing Pisha to squirm and exclaim in surprise. Lilim watches the interaction, a slight smile playing on her lips at the sylph's antics. Lilim spots a dropped item on the ground, politely informing the captive sylph. Lilim picks up a delicate lacy pink undergarment, examining it curiously. A sudden realization hits Lilim as she turns, her expression one of utter shock and embarrassment. Lilim, flustered, questions Lugo about the misplaced item, while he calmly explains it as a sylph diversion tactic. Lilim, cheeks flushed, directs a stern, accusatory gaze towards the mischievous Pisha. Pisha vehemently denies any wrongdoing, attempting to shift the blame onto the imposing Lugo. Lilim, though flustered, defends Lugo, asserting that while he's generally suspicious, this particular act isn't his style. Lugo declares sylph words untrustworthy, while Pisha feebly attempts to excuse her earlier outburst. Lugo, having had enough, unceremoniously drops the chattering sylph to the ground. Lilim, with a hint of impatience, urges the now grounded Pisha to lead them to her queen. They reach the sylph's nest deep within the forest, where chaos erupts as sylphs scatter from explosions. Panic spreads as a sylph announces the dreaded arrival of Kurokabuto, the Black Helm of Despair, with defeated sylphs littering the ground. Lugo strides unfazed through the pandemonium, leashed Pisha in tow, as Lilim observes the sylph's dramatic reactions. Paisha reluctantly shuffles forward in her distinctive leaf-shaped boots. The group arrives at a grand, imposing entrance, which Lilim identifies as the Queen's chamber. Lilim, ever cautious, turns to their captive guide, inquiring about potential traps. Paisha, with a suspiciously sweet smile, assures them the sacred chamber is trap-free, followed by a knowing giggle. Lilim, sensing deceit, points out Paisha's suspicious giggle, and Lugo silently concurs. Before anyone can react, Lugo's hand ignites with immense power, despite a faint plea to stop. He unleashes a torrent of fiery energy, blasting the grand entrance to the Queen's chamber. Paisha recoils in terror, and even Lilim seems startled by the sheer force of Lugo's preemptive strike. Amidst the aftermath, the Silph Queen lies sprawled, yet Lugo dryly acknowledges her surprising durability. Lilim stares in disbelief, utterly shocked that anyone could endure such a potent magical assault from Lugo. The disheveled queen rises, formally introducing herself as Tiemia, the fairy queen, to the intruders. Tiemia, with a defiant glare, boldly declares that magic of that caliber is utterly ineffective against her. Her bravado falters as she stumbles, Paisha crying out in concern, while Lilim notes the visible impact of the attack. Tiemia, visibly shaken and struggling, vehemently denies the attack's effectiveness, her protests ringing hollow. Lugo recognizes the source of her resilience, identifying it as the Fairy King's blessing. Tiemia, with a smug wink, boasts of her invulnerability, claiming no one can lay a finger on her. Lilim stares in disbelief, utterly astounded by the Queen's proclaimed immunity. Paisha, ever the loyal subject, erupts in joyous cheers, praising Her Majesty's power. As Tiemia stands her ground, Lugo drags the leashed Paisha closer, with Lilim observing the tense standoff. Lugo, unfazed by divine protection, coolly informs the Queen that he has some inquiries for her. His crimson eyes narrow as he demands the whereabouts of the cargo she deceitfully acquired. Tiemia plays coy about the stolen goods, though she internally feels the crushing pressure from this mere human. Lugo, ever persistent, declares his intention to rephrase his interrogation. The Fairy Queen looks perplexed, wondering what new angle the Black Helmet will take. Lugo presses Tiemia about her intentions for the pilfered human weapons and supplies. The Fairy Queen flashes a sinister fanged grin, hinting at a less than obvious plan. Tiemia, with unsettling glee, dramatically reveals her grand scheme: all-out war. Lilim recoils in utter disbelief, the Queen's declaration of war echoing in her mind. Tiemia elaborates, citing the demise of a powerful adventurer as the perfect catalyst for silph domination. The Queen's ambition burns brightly as she clenches her fist, ready to seize power. Tiemia boldly proclaims her ultimate goal, to ascend as the new Demon King, much to Lilim's shock. Lilim stares, completely flabbergasted, as a mysterious light begins to emanate from her chest. Lugo, ever vigilant, senses a change and urgently reaches out towards Lilim. The source of the light is revealed as Lilim's necklace, which now blazes with an intense, unknown energy. Lilim gasps as the necklace around her neck emits an even more blinding, powerful light. Lugo swiftly catches the now unconscious Lilim, his gaze fixed on the radiant amulet. Tiemia, with a smug query, clenches her fist, a tiny spark of light appearing in her palm. The Fairy Queen boasts of her soul-stealing magic, as Paisha erupts in fervent, supportive cheers. Tiemia declares her intent to claim Lugo's soul, her hand reaching towards him and the vulnerable Lilim. With a sinister grin, Tiemia unleashes a torrent of ethereal energy, aiming to snatch Lugo's very essence. Lugo remains resolute, a subtle golden aura flaring around him as the Queen's magic approaches. Tiemia, utterly convinced of her victory, proclaims Lugo's imminent defeat. The Queen's hand falters mid-air, a flicker of confusion crossing her features. Tiemia stares in disbelief, utterly baffled as her ultimate soul-stealing technique fails against the Black Helm. Tiemia and Paisha reel back, utterly bewildered by the Black Helm's inexplicable resistance. Lugo coolly clarifies that such magic is useless against a foe with superior magical might. The Fairy Queen scoffs, finding it impossible for a mere human to surpass her own power. With a knowing tilt of his head, Lugo casually implies he's far from ordinary. A glimpse of fiery red hair beneath his helm hints at the true identity of this mere human. Tiemia's denial crumbles as the horrifying realization of Lugo's true nature dawns upon her. Paisha, sensing her queen's distress, timidly inquires about her sudden change in demeanor. Tiemia recalls a chilling prophecy from her predecessor, warning of humans one must never provoke. The legend speaks of an S-rank adventurer, a red-haired warrior, the ultimate bane of all monsters. The queen stares at Lugo, a dreadful suspicion forming as she remembers rumors of that hero's demise. Peisha's eyes widen in dawning horror as she connects the dots about Lugo's true identity. Lugo removes his helm, revealing himself as the legendary red-haired adventurer Luke Othahide. Luke, his crimson eyes fixed on Tiemia, declares he's taking back Lilim's soul and the stolen cargo. An immense pressure radiates from Luke, sending Tiemia and Peisha sprawling in shock. Tiemia hits the ground hard, pinned by an invisible force, her body trembling under the strain. Peisha cries out silently in terror, fearing she'll be crushed as Tiemia struggles against Luke's might. Luke calmly stands over the defeated queen, questioning if she's had a moment to reconsider her choices. Tiemia, though battered and pinned, glares back with fiery defiance, refusing to show remorse. She clenches her fists, vowing that surrendering now would be a betrayal of her royal duty. Luke impassively watches Tiemia's struggle, while she internally laments her misfortune of facing such a monstrous opponent. Tiemia, pinned and furious, screams her refusal to be defeated by the likes of him. Luke observes her outburst with a calm, almost amused expression. Suddenly, the crushing pressure vanishes, leaving Tiemia and Peisha bewildered on the ground. Luke, helm in hand, reveals he released her because he had another inquiry, perplexing the fairy queen. Tiemia, now sitting up, stares incredulously, wondering what more he could possibly ask. Luke cuts to the chase, demanding to know Tiemia's true motive for initiating a war. The fairy queen, now kneeling, pauses, a flicker of contemplation in her eyes. Luke muses that she could have continued her peaceful, albeit mischievous, existence hidden away. Tiemia clenches her fists, retorting that the legendary hero truly understands nothing of their plight. She reveals that his disappearance led to a surge in monster activity, forcing weaker races like fairies from their homes. Tiemia recounts how, in their desperation, humans callously turned the fairies away at their gates. The impassive faces of human guards highlight their cold rejection of the fairies' pleas. The queen's expression reveals her profound shock and dismay at humanity's indifference. Driven by this betrayal, Tiemia resolved to conquer the human kingdom for her people's survival. Luke astutely deduces her plan, to use the human kingdom as a buffer against greater threats. Tiemia further explains that even a failed war would force humans to acknowledge the resurgent monster menace. She grimly states that with humans preoccupied, weaker races like fairies might finally escape being hunted. Luke concedes her plan was well considered, while Tiemia ruefully admits his intervention was unexpected. The legendary hero, Luke Othahide, listens intently, his crimson eyes fixed on the defeated queen. Tiemia, accepting her fate, bows low and offers her life to the man who thwarted her ambitions. Tiemia, utterly defeated, offers her life in exchange for the safety of her fairy comrades. Peisha watches in distress as Luke silently considers the queen's desperate plea. Luke, however, surprises Tiemia by inviting her and her people to Azima village. The fairy queen is visibly stunned, her mind struggling to comprehend this unexpected turn. Luke kneels before her, offering a solemn vow to protect all the fairies. Tiemia, completely flustered, tries to interject, her disbelief evident. Luke sets his terms. No more attacks on humans, warning her of other powerful individuals in the capital, a thought that terrifies Peisha. He notes Tiemia's ignorance of humanity's true strength, prompting her to question his sincerity. Luke meets her gaze directly, his expression confirming he is entirely serious. Tiemia's eyes widen, her fairy senses confirming the chilling truth in Luke's words. Tiemia, acknowledging her complete defeat by Luke Othahide, reluctantly agrees to cease hostilities against humans. With a newfound reliance, Tiemia boldly insists Luke uphold his end of the bargain and protect her people. Luke, ever the hero, gently takes her hand, affirming his commitment to their safety with a reassuring smile. 2 weeks later, the scene transitions to the peaceful Azima village, where life seems to have returned to a semblance of normalcy. A crucial delivery is made as a neatly packaged bag of medicine is presented. Lilim expresses her gratitude to the village elder, who quickly credits Mr. Lugo for the positive turn of events. The elder confirms his daily appreciation for Lugo's contributions, a sentiment Lilim readily accepts. Lilim, her expression thoughtful, internally acknowledges the significant impact of Mr. Lugo's actions. She observes through the window that all the stolen medicinal herbs and cargo have been successfully recovered. Lilim reflects that thanks to Luke, she can now safely resume her vital work as an apothecary, though a hint of something more lingers. Lilim, with a hint of curiosity, asks the village chief for his thoughts on Azima village's current state. The village chief, beaming with satisfaction, declares that their home has become an even better place than before. Seeking further affirmation, Lilim turns to Harmal-san, who is enjoying tea and snacks nearby. Harmal-san enthusiastically confirms, while Tiamia, the former fairy queen, absolutely revels in the delicious novelty of sweet buns. The elderly woman smiles warmly at Tiamia's delight as Lilim observes the scene with a gentle, pleased expression. The narrative reveals that a significant number of silphs have settled in Azima, cheerfully helping villagers carry goods. These formidable fairies also bolster the village's defenses, patrolling the outskirts as a dedicated silph elite unit. Their contributions extend to personal care, as one elder blissfully enjoys a shoulder massage from a helpful silph. Through the window, Lilim watches the silphs who have effortlessly integrated into village life, a testament to Mr. Lugo's foresight. The chief remarks to Lilim that this harmonious cooperation with the silphs, just as Lugo predicted, will surely lead to the village's growth, though Lilim seems to have a lingering thought. Lilim, however, voices her lingering distrust, recalling the fairy's past mischief and harm. Suddenly, Tiamia grabs Lilim's attention by tugging at her sleeve. The former fairy queen cheekily inquires if Mr. Lugo also enjoys sweet buns, noting Lilim's connection to him. Lilim muses that most people enjoy sweets, then curiously asks Tiamia why she's so interested. Tiamia, with a burst of pure joy, declares her desire to share sweet buns with Mr. Lugo. Lilim is caught completely off guard, her face flushing at Tiamia's bold and innocent enthusiasm. As Tiamia enthusiastically hugs her, Lilim internally admits that fairy smiles are dangerously adorable. Tiamia squirms in Lilim's flustered embrace, prompting a quick apology from the apothecary. The village chief interrupts their moment, addressing both Lilim and Tiamia, who look towards him inquisitively. He poses a cryptic question about the significance of the day, causing Lilim to react with sudden, flustered realization. The village chief drops a bombshell. Capital officials are en route for an inspection, sending Lilim into a panic while Tiamia listens intently. Lilim's fear escalates, realizing the silph's very existence hangs in the balance, as Tiamia's expression hardens with resolve. While Lilim frets, the chief remains optimistic, citing Tiamia's charm and Mr. Lugo's thorough monster extermination. The chief beams, certain Azima village will impress the inspectors, though Lilim advises a healthy dose of caution. Lilim places her trust in Tiamia as the silph leader, who puffs her chest out, readily accepting the crucial responsibility. Tiamia, invoking the fairy king, dramatically places her hand upon a fluffy sweet bun, a symbol of her new mission. Brandishing a sweet bun, Tiamia boldly proclaims their plan to win over the inspectors with treats and overwhelming cuteness, much to Lilim's amusement. A stately carriage makes its way along a clear, monster-free road towards the now bustling Azima village. Inside, the stern guild investigator Luluel pores over her notes, her primary focus usually being monster ecology. Luluel reviews her unusual directive. To assess the human-silph cohabitation, her mind already suspecting Azima's villagers are being duped. Luluel, with a curious glint in her eyes, probes Garam for his reasoning. Guild investigator Garam, ever the cynic, declares silphs inherently sly, mischievous, and far more dangerous than they appear. He elaborates that even C-rank adventurers are mere playthings for silphs, leaving ordinary villagers utterly defenseless. Luluel reveals she brought Garam, a B-rank adventurer, for this very reason, while he eyes a promotion to A-rank. Garam's hand hovers near his sword, ready to act at the slightest hint of silph treachery. His steely gaze confirms his grim resolve. Any suspicious silph will face his blade. Luluel seems a tad unsettled by Garam's unwavering, almost aggressive determination. An ominous shadow abruptly engulfs their carriage, signaling an unexpected interruption. Both investigators are visibly startled, Luluel urgently directing Garam's attention outside. A vast shadowy presence looms from the forest, advancing ominously towards their carriage. Luluel initially suspects a rather over-the-top silph prank, though Garam's expression suggests otherwise. Garam's eyes betray his shock. This is no mere prank, but something far more sinister. Their driver, consumed by fear, frantically urges the horses onward, a desperate bid for escape. Suddenly, a colossal deathworm, a nightmare made real, bursts forth, blocking their path. While Garam panics about impending doom, Luluel gleefully sketches the magnificent, terrifying specimen. She expects her B-rank escort to handle it, but Garam knows this foe outclasses even A-rank heroes. Her research enthusiasm falters as Garam's dire warning finally pierces her academic focus. The investigators exchange a look of pure, unadulterated terror as the beast closes in. A glance backward reveals the deathworm's head is even more monstrously huge than they first imagined. The massive creature now encircles their carriage, its segmented body a terrifying, inescapable cage. Luluel frantically scrawls what might be her last words as Garam stares at impending doom. The sheer bulk of the deathworm presses against their carriage, Luluel's face a mask of pure terror. Resolved to act, Garam bursts from the carriage, determined to confront the colossal threat. Sword drawn, Garam faces the terrifying beast, noting the severed reins and their hopeless situation. The deathworm lunges, its terrifying visage causing Garam to recoil in sheer panic. Suddenly, a mysterious cloaked figure plummets from the sky, targeting the monstrous worm. The deathworm looks up, startled, as the cloaked individual with glowing red eyes descends upon it. With astonishing speed, the newcomer vanquishes the deathworm in a vibrant green burst, shocking Garam. Garam stands utterly baffled, sword still raised, trying to process the unbelievable intervention. Luluel peeks out, impressed by Garam's supposed bravery, but he quickly denies taking down the beast. Garam realizes the mysterious savior is none other than the villager Lugo, standing triumphantly over the fallen beast. Back in Azima village, Luluel thanks Lugo for the unexpected escort, who humbly directs them to the village chief. Luluel playfully nudges Garam, reminding him to offer his own thanks, much to his chagrin. She then teases Garam about a mere villager outperforming a B-rank adventurer, hitting a nerve. Garam, however, eyes Lugo's retreating form, convinced this villager is far more than he seems. The trio approaches a quaint village house, presumably the chief's residence under a bright, sunny sky. The door swings open, and the investigators are met with an enthusiastic, if slightly overwhelming, welcome. The village chief and Tiemia strike a dynamic, synchronized pose, announcing their identities with gusto. Inside, the investigators observe this rather theatrical greeting, with Lugo looking on from the doorway. Luluel formally introduces herself and Garam, while Tiemia quietly questions the chief about their pose's underwhelming impact on the city folk. Luluel, ever the professional, decides to cut straight to the chase, her finger poised thoughtfully. She requests a full tour of Azima village, Tiemia and the chief attentively awaiting her next words. Luluel emphasizes the unprecedented nature of human-monster cohabitation, requiring a detailed investigation. The village chief and Tiemia give an enthusiastic thumbs up, eager to showcase their harmonious life. Tiemia, beaming, insists Lugo accompany them to witness their amazing village, and he coolly accepts. With a triumphant flourish, Tiemia clings to Lugo's arm, hearts aflutter as their tour group forms. Garam, observing Tiemia's Fairy King act, notes her unwavering alertness, sensing she's no ordinary silph. Tiemia, now comfortably perched on Lugo's arm, seems to have found a more convenient mode of transport. Luluel theorizes that Lugo's formidable strength might originate from this same unyielding watchfulness. Her eyes sharpen with analytical intent, Luluel resolves to delve deeper into the village's secrets. Tiemia, still clinging to Lugo, lets out a joyful cry, a purple aura flaring around her. Luluel's hand glows intensely as she activates her Hayake ability, the blessing of 100 plans. Multiple holographic screens materialize around Luluel, displaying streams of data for her analysis. The screens reveal Tiemia's personal details, though some information remains tantalizingly obscured. Luluel confirms Tiemia possesses a genuine blessing, acknowledging the silph's formidable power. Impressed by this discovery, Luluel declares to a bewildered Garam that their journey was indeed worthwhile. The village chief proudly chimes in, boasting that Tiemia's charm is unmatched, even in the royal capital. Luluel's analytical focus, however, begins to shift from Tiemia to a more enigmatic subject. Her investigative gaze, now a targeting reticle, locks onto the mysterious villager, Lugo. Luluel is visibly shocked as her usually reliable information system glitches, failing to analyze Lugo. Luluel's frustration mounts as her system fails to retrieve even basic information on Lugo. Her screen flickers with indecipherable text, leaving Luluel utterly perplexed by this unprecedented failure. The usually infallible Hyake ability stutters, completely unable to process data on the enigmatic villager. A sudden surge of dark energy repels Luluel, her own power seemingly turned against her. A menacing, armored visage with glowing red eyes glares back from her screen, a silent digital warning. Luluel stares, aghast, as the mysterious entity on her screen defies all her analytical capabilities. She stumbles, her blessing of 100 schemes proving utterly useless against this unknown power. The shadowy figure on her display issues a chilling, non-verbal command to cease her investigation. Suddenly Lugo, now clad in imposing black armor, catches Luluel, remarking on her near fall. Luluel, shaken and unnerved, stares up at the armored man, demanding to know his true identity. The armored Lugo cryptically advises Luluel that ignorance of his identity is for her own good, his red eyes piercing the gloom. Luluel takes an unsteady step back, the contrast stark between her delicate heels and Lugo's imposing boots. Garam, ever the concerned partner, checks on Luluel, who attributes her disorientation to simple travel fatigue. Tiemia, seizing the moment, decisively announces their next stop, catching the others by surprise. With a flourish and a wide grin, Tiemia reveals their destination, the village's premier apothecary, naturally. Beaming, Tiemia leads the way, proudly announcing their arrival at the esteemed establishment. The top apothecary appears rather humble, prompting Garam's blunt disapproval and Luluel's swift reprimand. Despite her words, a bead of sweat betrays Luluel's own reservations about the clinic's appearance. Luluel privately concedes that this village facility pales in comparison to the grand hospitals of the royal capital. Lugo, still clad in his formidable armor, knocks on the door, summoning Lilim for an emergency patient. The door opens to reveal Lilim, a young woman with glasses who briskly confirms she's prepared. Lilim, the pink-haired apothecary, cheerfully identifies Luluel as the patient, her youth surprising the investigator. Luluel, slightly flustered, confirms her identity, clearly taken aback by the apothecary's tender age. Lilim, already informed of the situation, warmly ushers them inside, assuring Luluel that all preparations are complete. Inside the modest clinic, Luluel rests on a cot as Lilim begins her examination, observed by Garam and the armored Lugo. Garam openly questions Lilim's qualifications, suggesting she's merely an assistant, much to Tiemia's indignant ire. Lilim, with a gentle smile, modestly acknowledges she isn't a formally trained doctor. Tiemia fiercely vouches for Lilim's skills as an exceptional apothecary, countering Garam's persistent skepticism about her youth. Luluel, from her resting place, calmly tells Garam to relax, a subtle smile on her face. Luluel, her senses sharp, notes the potent aroma of herbs clinging to Lilim, deducing her daily dedication and experience. Lilim, with a kind expression, gently instructs Luluel to lie down and get some rest. Luluel subtly touches her side, a silent indication of her discomfort. Lilim's hands begin to radiate a warm, golden energy as she calls upon spirits to diagnose Luluel. Luluel's eyes widen in sheer disbelief, recognizing the telltale signs of a genuine blessing. The young apothecary calmly reveals she wields the blessing of the minor spirits, working in tandem with them. Luluel, lying down, processes this revelation, another powerful blessing in this village, as Lilim identifies a disrupted magical flow as the source of her headaches. Impressed by the accurate diagnosis, Luluel inquires how Lilim knew, with Lilim attributing it to the spirit's skill. Lilim then calls for her assistant, Peisha-chan, to fetch specific numbered medicines, receiving an eager affirmation. Garam is visibly stunned as a tiny silph Peisha zips in with the supplies, prompting his surprised query about her being an assistant. Lilim casually thanks Peisha, who responds with equal familiarity, leaving Garam flabbergasted by their easy first-name basis camaraderie. Lilim confidently tips some small white pills into her palm, Peisha peeking from behind. The apothecary presents two neatly folded paper packets, one to regulate magical flow, the other to soothe headaches. Luluel, astonished, questions if such specialized medicine is readily available, as Lilim cheerfully confirms, and Peisha offers a drink. The investigator marvels, noting these remedies would be a bureaucratic nightmare to acquire back in the royal capital. Lilim modestly attributes their well-stocked apothecary to Peisha and her fellow silphs, much to Luluel's continued surprise. Indeed, Paisha and the sylphs are depicted as masters of the forest, knowing precisely where every vital herb flourishes. By skillfully combining these sylph-gathered herbs, Lilim proudly explains they no longer need to import expensive capital medicines. Luluel, though the explanation seems sound, still harbors doubts, pondering if monsters would truly aid humans so willingly. The village girls, along with Tiamia, watch Luluel with hopeful smiles, while Garam and Lugo observe her hesitation. Luluel eyes the tiny pills, steeling herself, convinced a single dose will unveil the authenticity of Lilim's claims. Luluel resolutely swallows the pills, ready to test their efficacy. A warm, golden light suddenly emanates from Luluel's chest as the medicine takes effect. Her eyes fly open in astonishment as a wave of relief washes over her. Luluel sits bolt upright, her headache miraculously gone, leaving Garam utterly dumbfounded. The investigator can't believe it. Such potent, fast-acting medicine is a rarity, even in the royal capital. Lilim beams with pride, taking full credit for the concoction, while Paisha eagerly chimes in about her own contribution. Luluel now fully acknowledges Lilim's genuine talent, young, blessed, and undeniably skilled. A calculating glint appears in Luluel's eye. Such prodigious ability is wasted in this remote village. Luluel addresses the young apothecary directly, a new plan already forming in her mind. With newfound respect, Luluel extends a surprising invitation, asking if Lilim has ever considered moving to the capital. Luluel passionately argues that Lilim's skills would be highly sought after in the capital, even suggesting guild backing for a larger clinic. Lilim, with a bright and unwavering smile, politely turns down the investigator's grand offer. Luluel, initially mishearing, is visibly surprised when Lilim firmly repeats her refusal to leave. The investigator attempts to sway Lilim, detailing the allure of top-class facilities, a skyrocketing salary, and ample room for advancement in the capital. Lilim, with a heartfelt expression, declares her profound love for Azima village as her primary reason for staying. The young apothecary concedes an interest in better equipment, but only to better serve the people of her village, fearing her absence would create hardship. Lilim explains that her connection with Paisha and the other sylphs is crucial for her development as an apothecary right there in the village. With genuine admiration, Lilim extols the virtues of the sylphs, Paisha beaming proudly beside her. Lilim reveals the sylphs' comprehensive knowledge of herbs and their ability to forewarn her of arrivals, prompting Luluel's realization that her own visit was anticipated. Tiamia chimes in, proudly explaining that the sylphs diligently patrol the village, reporting any anomalies. Tiamia, peeking from behind Lugo, boldly states her disinterest in the capital, feeling perfectly secure where she is. Garam, visibly sweating, contemplates the sheer power he's just witnessed from Lugo. Intrigued, Garam proposes Lugo demonstrate his usual activities, with Luluel eagerly asking to observe too. The imposing Lugo pauses, his gloved hand clenching as he considers their bold request. Lugo coolly accepts, issuing a subtle challenge. They're welcome if they can actually keep pace. Suddenly, they're a blur, streaking through the dense forest at an astonishing speed. Luluel and Garam are already panting, the investigator admitting her immediate regret at this high-speed pursuit. Garam, still keen, reiterates his desire to see Lugo's routine, Luluel nervously agreeing to tag along. Lugo extends a hand, nonchalantly agreeing once more, but with the clear implication they won't last. Luluel, utterly spent, cries out in exhaustion, unable to maintain the punishing pace set by Lugo. Garam and Luluel find themselves face-to-face with not one, but two monstrous deathworms, prompting Garam's urgent cry to flee. The intimidating presence of the giant deathworms looms large, their glowing eyes promising a deadly encounter. Luluel, sprawled on the ground, desperately warns the village chief of the catastrophic danger these creatures represent. Unfazed, the village chief calmly sips his drink, casually remarking that such monstrous appearances are a regular occurrence. He then bewilders the panicking investigators by offering them tea, much to their exasperated disbelief. Garam frantically shakes the chief, trying to impress upon him the dire situation, as Luluel insists on calling for capital aid. Luluel's eyes widen in utter shock, her mind struggling to process the unfolding chaos and the chief's baffling composure. In an instant, the two formidable deathworms are inexplicably neutralized, steam rising from their defeated forms. Garam and Luluel can only stare, dumbfounded, at the suddenly dispatched monsters, questioning the unbelievable turn of events. Tiamia steps forward, small orbs of light dancing around her hands, revealing her theft magic as the cause of the worm's demise. Tiemia winks playfully, dismissing her incredible feat as nothing special. Luluel and Garam are utterly flabbergasted, questioning if they just witnessed soul-stealing magic. The self-proclaimed fairy king Tiemia proudly confirms her theft magic can even snatch monster souls, much to Garam's awe. Just as they process this, an even more colossal, multi-headed worm beast emerges, dwarfing the previous threats. Tiemia concedes that a monster of this magnitude seems immune to her theft magic, prompting Garam's desperate query. Tiemia looks to Lugo for assistance, noting the giant worm's core is on its forehead, but its sheer size makes magic ineffective. The camera zooms in on the giant worm's terrifying maw and the glowing red gem embedded in its armored head. Garam, sweating profusely, nervously advises Lugo and Tiemia that retreating might be the wisest course of action. Lugo, ever stoic, ignores the advice and instead comments on the quality of Garam's sheathed sword. Garam is taken aback, a bead of sweat rolling down his cheek as he processes Lugo's unexpected observation. Lugo, unimpressed by Garam's fear, coolly requests to borrow his sword. With Garam's blade in hand, Lugo instantly adopts a formidable, battle-ready posture. Tiemia, ever confident, urges Lugo to dispatch the colossal worm with a single, decisive blow. Lugo, unflustered by the monstrous threat or the demand, calmly acknowledges the challenge. He then launches himself at the multi-headed beast, aiming directly for the glowing gem on its forehead. Lugo remarks that it's been some time since he last employed this particular fighting stance. Luluel's eyes widen with dawning recognition, a bead of sweat tracing her temple as she observes his form. She reveals to a bewildered Garam that Lugo's stance is the signature style of the legendary Luke Othahide. A spectral image of the famed hero Luke Othahide momentarily overlays Lugo, mirroring his exact posture. In a devastating downward slash, Lugo strikes the giant worm's critical point with immense force. Lugo's borrowed blade connects decisively with the giant worm's armored forehead. The monster's gem cracks, vital energy seeping out as its eye reflects the fatal blow. As Lugo stands resolute, the colossal worm behind him disintegrates into a cascade of green particles. Tiemia beams with unrestrained delight, her absolute confidence in Lugo proven correct. The village chief, with a calm smile, directs a pointed question to the astonished Luluel and Garam. He proudly clarifies that the man they've witnessed is none other than Azima village's formidable guardian. Luluel, a bead of sweat on her temple, stares with a newfound, profound understanding, Garam still processing the spectacle. Facing the defeated beast, Luluel confirms to the chief that the village's true nature is now crystal clear. Investigator Luluel's carriage rolls away from Azima village, her official report commencing. Her report astutely notes the silphs aren't just forest spirits, but beings coexisting harmoniously with the villagers. Her report details how the silphs introduced advanced agriculture and industrial dexterity to the village. Furthermore, their mobility greatly enhanced the village's distribution and information networks. For Azima's aging populace, the silphs' aid is an immense blessing, offered because the village is their safest haven. Luluel, penning her findings, hesitates, wondering if she should even mention him. Garam, however, firmly believes they must report Lugo to the guild, recognizing him as an invaluable asset. Luluel can't help but smirk at Garam's sudden shift in tune regarding Lugo, who now fawns over his power. Garam, now fully convinced, vows to inform the guildmaster, dreaming of reaching A rank by learning from Lugo. Luluel, with an understanding smile, simply agrees with Garam's enthusiastic plan. Yet a thoughtful glint appears in Luluel's eyes as a new consideration dawns on her. She recalls her earlier question to Lugo about visiting the capital, and his resolute, unwavering refusal. Luluel realizes Tiemia and Lilim also declined, but Lugo hints persistence might change their minds, excluding himself. A spark of hope ignites in Luluel's eyes at Lugo's cryptic advice. Lugo adds a condition. Success hinges entirely on her unwavering effort. Luluel thoughtfully considers if her persistent recruitment efforts could eventually sway Lugo himself. She reflects on the void left by Luke Othahide, acknowledging the world's desperate need for a new hero. Garam enthusiastically affirms Lugo's undeniable potential to fill those legendary shoes. Luluel reveals these very thoughts were first voiced by her close friend, Lisha. Garam, a bead of sweat forming, identifies Lisha Marinte as the formidable saintess from Luke Othahide's own party. With a determined smile, Luluel resolves to inform Lisha about the remarkable Lugo, a vision of the saintess appearing. Weeks after the investigators' departure, a new conflict arises, hinting at a terrifying monster lurking near the clinic. Lilim, sweating with determination, rallies Peisha-chan for their impending task. Peisha-chan, equally flustered, nervously affirms her readiness to assist Lilim. The dreaded monster turns out to be nothing more than a formidable patch of overgrown weeds behind the clinic. These neglected weeds have flourished for years, transforming the area into a wild green expanse. Armed with scythes, Lilim and Peisha-chan prepare for an epic battle against the unruly vegetation. With a mighty effort, they dive into the thicket, vigorously clearing the overgrowth. 3 grueling hours later, both are completely spent, lamenting their aching backs and total exhaustion. A weary Peisha-chan, still recovering, curiously asks Lilim about the sudden weed-whacking mission. Lilim sheepishly reveals her grand plan, to create a garden, surprising Peisha-chan. With a hopeful smile, Lilim explains the garden will allow them to cultivate the herbs they usually gather. Peisha-chan, ever practical, wonders why they need a garden when the forest offers plentiful herbs. Lilim, her voice laced with genuine worry, explains her fear of monsters attacking them during forest expeditions. Peisha-chan's eyes glisten, deeply moved by the depth of Lilim's concern for their safety. A sudden surge of determination fills Peisha-chan as she springs to her feet, a new plan forming. With a flourish, Peisha-chan zips off, promising to return with the ultimate weeding assistant. Lilim, still weary from her earlier efforts, looks up in bemusement at the mention of a helper. Lugo, the village's masked guardian, appears scythe in hand, coolly stating he'll handle the rest. Lilim, though impressed by Lugo's arrival, secretly muses that even he might find this weeding task a challenge. Lugo, scythe poised like a weapon, issues a stern warning for them to keep their distance, hinting at unforeseen peril. Lilim, initially amused, starts to question how simple weeding could possibly be considered dangerous. Lugo unleashes a devastating whirlwind with his scythe, obliterating the overgrown weeds in a single powerful motion. Lilim and Peisha-chan stare in utter disbelief, their minds struggling to comprehend the sheer force of Lugo's weeding technique. In an instant, the once wild patch of land is perfectly cleared, the soil smooth and ready for planting. Lugo, scythe resting on his shoulder, declares the job done, Peisha-chan gushing over his efficiency while Lilim remains dumbfounded. Tiemiya arrives, curious about the commotion, as Peisha-chan excitedly explains their new garden project to her. Lugo, ever practical, inquires about the specific seeds Lilim intends to cultivate in their newly prepared plot. Lilim proudly presents roca seeds, revealing their crucial role as an ingredient for mana recovery potions. Lugo commends her choice, noting its suitability for an apothecary, much to Lilim's bashful delight. When Lugo asks about other seeds, Lilim thoughtfully lists herbs for stamina potions and wound treatment. Lugo, surprisingly, finds a certain satisfaction in tilling the earth, getting his hands dirty for their garden. Lilim beams, clearly flattered by Lugo's unexpected praise for her gardening choices. She expresses her gratitude to Lugo, acknowledging his significant contribution to their new garden. Tiemiya observes them from a distance, pleased with how the community garden project is shaping up. The once wild patch is now a neatly organized garden, with various herbs sprouting under labeled markers. Lilim, feeling indebted, sincerely thanks Lugo for his day's work and promises to repay his kindness. Lugo casually dismisses her concerns, offering his assistance whenever a man's help is needed, leaving Lilim momentarily speechless. Later, a flustered Lilim confides in Tiemiya, voicing her lingering wild suspicion that Lugo might be Luke's killer with a bounty. Yet, Lilim admits that despite his intimidating appearance, Lugo has only ever been a protector to her and the village. A flicker of trust sparks within Lilim as she contemplates Lugo's consistent, gentle actions. With newfound resolve, Lilim decides to embrace this budding trust and actively seek Lugo's help in the future. Lugo encourages Lilim to be forthright, and she cheerfully agrees. Lilim earnestly offers her assistance to Lugo, should he ever require something within her capabilities. Lugo clenches his fist, a silent acknowledgement of her sincere proposition. He cryptically implies he will indeed rely on her when the opportune moment arises. A foreboding narration hints that Lilim's well-intentioned offer would soon lead to regret. The following day, an utterly bewildered Lilim confronts an unexpected situation at the clinic. Peisha-chan bursts in, alarmed and questioning Lilim about the sudden commotion. A visibly stressed Lilim gestures towards the source of her shock, urging Peisha-chan to witness it. Peisha-chan gasps as Lilim reveals a mountain of paperwork, an overwhelming number of medicine mixing requests. Lilim despairs over the sheer volume, many requiring complex formulas, unsure how she'll ever complete them all. Lilim fumes over audacious requests for poisons and other illicit concoctions, while Peisha-chan questions their legality. Both slump over the desk, utterly baffled by the sudden deluge of peculiar tasks. Lugo makes a timely entrance, interrupting their bewildered state. He observes the towering stack of letters, understanding Lilim shares his predicament. Lugo reveals he too is inundated, blaming Luluel's enthusiastic promotion, a sentiment he clearly doesn't appreciate. He then presents a particularly distinguished-looking letter, sealed with an impressive emblem. The inscription on the envelope identifies it as a formal request from the Holy Church of Arat. Peisha-chan and Lilim are visibly impressed, though Lilim queries the significance of this particular sender. Peisha-chan gushes, explaining the church is home to the renowned saintess Lisha Marente, a former companion of Luke Athahide. Lugo calmly announces that Saintess Lisha has extended an invitation for him to join her party. Lugo adds that Saintess Lisha herself will be arriving in Azima soon, much to the girl's astonishment. Peisha-chan and Lilim stare, wide-eyed and mouths agape, struggling to process this monumental news. Peisha-chan, practically vibrating with excitement, insists this is a huge opportunity Lugo must seize, but he bluntly states he cannot. Lugo reveals a troubling history with Lisha, expressing concern she might cause him problems if they meet again. Lilim and Peisha-chan exchange suggestive smirks, immediately suspecting some juicy romantic drama from his past. Lugo curtly denies their romantic theories, simply stating he wishes to avoid her, as Lilim muses on his mysterious history. Lugo then pivots, pointedly reminding Lilim of her previous offer to assist him with anything. He dramatically declares that the time for her to fulfill that promise has arrived. Lugo, with an imposing presence, delegates the task. Lilim must meet Saintess Lisha and formally reject the invitation on his behalf. Lilim is utterly flabbergasted, breaking into a nervous sweat at the sheer audacity of his request. Lugo stands firm, reiterating his outrageous demand to a visibly panicked Lilim, while Peisha-chan watches. Lilim internally frets, recalling her rash promise to help Lugo with anything as her hands tremble. She nervously carries a tea tray, admitting to herself this task was far beyond her wildest expectations. With a shaky hand, Lilim serves tea to the esteemed guests awaiting her. Saintess Lisha, accompanied by a stern-faced knight, graciously accepts the offered refreshment. The saintess beams with an almost ethereal kindness, her smile disarmingly sweet. Lilim, alongside a curious Peisha-chan, observes the saintess, already feeling the weight of her mission. She can't help but admire Lisha's radiant, silk-like golden hair. Lilim is further captivated by the undeniable aura of grace emanating from the saintess. Her gaze then shifts to the formidable holy knight, whose powerful presence is unmistakable. Lilim confirms the radiant woman before her is indeed Saintess Lisha Marente of the Arat Holy Church. A flustered Lilim stammers out a question about the saintess's visit, while Lisha gently tells her to relax. Despite the saintess's kind words, Lilim can't shake her overwhelming nervousness. Peisha-chan interjects, attempting to bolster Lilim's courage, insisting there's no need for panic. Peisha-chan, ever the proud fairy king, declares Lilim should stand tall, having earned her royal acknowledgement. Saintess Lisha smiles warmly, revealing she's well aware of Lilim's renowned skills as an apothecary. Lisha then turns her attention to Tiamia, acknowledging the fairy king's reputation, much to Tiamia's delight and Lilim's flustered amusement. The saintess brings her hands together, a polite gesture indicating she's about to make her intentions clear. With an angelic smile, Lisha extends an invitation for both Lilim and Tiamia to accompany her to the capital and serve there, as Lilim silently wonders about Lugo. Lilim and Peisha-chan exchange shocked and bewildered glances, thrown by this unexpected proposition. Lilim and Peisha-chan simultaneously protest, with Peisha-chan vehemently stating her preference for Azima village. Lilim glances nervously, caught off guard by the saintess's unwavering proposition. The holy knight's menacing aura intensifies, clearly displeased by their immediate refusal. Saintess Lisha calmly interjects, gently reining in her overzealous knight Liz. As Liz reluctantly steps back, Lisha remarks on the characteristic fervor of knights, while Lilim and Peisha-chan remain tense. Lisha sips her tea, then delivers a chillingly sweet warning about the consequences should their future saintess candidate Lilim come to harm. Lilim is utterly dumbfounded, scarcely believing Lisha just referred to her as a saintess candidate. With an angelic smile, Lisha cheerfully confirms Lilim's unspoken, astonished question. Lisha enumerates Lilim's virtues, her clinic management, skills recognized by Luluwell, and the villagers' deep trust. The saintess then highlights Lilim's most significant quality, a natural, gifted healing presence, leaving Lilim utterly bewildered. Saintess Lisha claps her hands together with a decisive snap, declaring the matter settled. With a zealous glint in her eyes, Lisha proposes to make Lilim a saint, envisioning glory for the Arat Holy Church. Lilim recoils in utter confusion, completely lost by the saintess's sudden and overwhelming pronouncement. Lisha's knowing smile confirms Lilim's dawning horror. Lugo's dire warnings about her were absolutely true. A flashback reveals Lugo forewarning Lilim that Lisha would come on strong right from the start. Lugo further cautioned that allowing Lisha to dictate the pace would mean falling directly into her trap. Lilim internally struggles, recalling the gentle image of Saintess Lisha, finding it hard to believe she'd be so aggressive. Back in the flashback, Lugo flatly stated that Lisha's perceived gentleness is precisely her cunning tactic. Lugo elaborated that Lisha uses her graceful demeanor to lower defenses before completely dominating the conversation. Lilim, beads of sweat forming, realizes she must seize the initiative or Lugo's grim prediction will unfold. Lilim, seizing the moment, clasps her hands, ready to deliver her counteroffensive to Saintess Lisha. Lisha, with a hint of surprise, inquires if there's an issue, as Lilim internally recognizes her opening. With a burst of courage, Lilim firmly declines the capital invitation for herself, Tiemia, and Lugo, boldly asking them to depart. Peisha-chan watches with a satisfied smirk, clearly approving of Lilim's assertive stance. The saintess and her knight appear momentarily stunned by Lilim's direct refusal. Lisha, ever so subtly, shows a flicker of surprise, a single bead of sweat betraying her composure. Lilim stands her ground, albeit with a nervous clench, having laid down her terms. Lisha, with a disarming smile, smoothly suggests a simple misunderstanding, much to Lilim's momentary relief. The saintess gently takes Lilim's hand, raising a finger as if to clarify her actual intentions. Before Lilim can react, a brilliant teleportation circle engulfs them, whisking them away to the capital against their will. Saintess Lisha, with a serene smile, assures Lilim that induction into the Arat Holy Church will resolve everything. Lisha's expression remains unnervingly sweet as she confidently predicts Lilim's confusion will soon vanish. A frantic Peisha-chan desperately warns Lilim to flee, recognizing the saintess's dangerous nature. Lilim stares in disbelief as Peisha-chan attempts a rescue, while Lisha watches their futile struggle. The saintess beams, expressing her delight that Tiemia will also be accompanying them, her eyes gleaming. Peisha-chan is utterly aghast, unable to comprehend the saintess's audacious claim. The golden teleportation circle beneath them intensifies, sealing their involuntary departure. Lisha coolly informs her knight Liz that their departure is imminent, the magic nearly complete. Lilim's eyes widen in sheer terror as the gravity of her abduction truly sinks in. A flashback shows a naive Lilim previously dismissing Lugo's warnings about the saintess as mere exaggeration. In a flashback, Lugo sternly tells Lilim she underestimates Lisha's true character. Lugo had promised to rush to her side if the saintess ever got out of hand. Back in the present, a terrified Lilim screams Lugo's name, her last hope. Just then, Lugo smashes through the window in a dynamic entrance. He lands amidst the shattering glass, right as the teleportation circle glows brighter. Lugo admits he stayed close by, but even he didn't expect a teleportation circle ambush. Saintess Lisha turns, her expression showing a flicker of surprise at this interruption. Lilim, clutching a frantic Peisha-chan, desperately begs Lugo to save them. Lugo lunges forward, hand outstretched, determined to pull them from the saintess's grasp. Lisha, however, merely notes with a chilling smile how convenient it is that all three are now together. Saintess Lisha beams, declaring it's much more efficient to transport all three of them to the capital at once. Lilim and Peisha-chan stare in wide-eyed disbelief at the saintess's audacious move. Lugo, caught in the teleportation's glow, grimly realizes he's arrived just moments too late. A blinding flash engulfs the room as the teleportation spell fully activates. The room is suddenly empty. Only lingering magical particles and shattered glass remain. Just then, Luluelle bursts in excitedly, carrying pancakes she intended for the guests. Luluelle halts abruptly, her cheerful demeanor fading as she surveys the deserted, damaged room. With a puzzled expression, Luluelle scans the empty space, wondering where Lilim and the others have vanished. The scene shifts to the imposing, grand structure of the Eret Holy Church headquarters. Lilim, now in different attire, examines a pristine white robe, identifying it as the church's sacred vestments. Lilim, flustered, eyes the fine white robe, questioning if she's even worthy to wear such sacred attire. She nervously chews on the hanger, torn between her unease and a strange compulsion to try on the vestments. Her mind flashes back to the chaotic moment of abduction, Lugo desperately trying to reach them amidst the teleportation's glow. In that memory, Lilim frantically questioned the unstoppable magic, Lugo confirming their grim, irreversible fate. Lugo's voice from the past echoes, sternly instructing her to comply within enemy territory to avoid further trouble. The flashback shows a visibly shaken Lilim absorbing Lugo's dire warning, her eyes wide with apprehension. Lugo's solemn vow to protect her, no matter the cost, resounds in her memory. Recalling Lugo's protective words, Lilim, with a sigh of resignation, decides to don the church's garments. Moments later, Lilim stands transformed in the pristine white robes, her expression a mix of awe and bashful surprise. She marvels at the exquisite tailoring and real gold accents, a level of luxury completely foreign to her. Lilim, adorned in the sacred vestments, fingers the golden clasp, musing on the unexpected perks of sainthood. She clears her throat, a blush creeping up as she prepares to embrace her new, albeit forced, role. With newfound confidence, Lilim strikes a dramatic pose, playfully declaring herself Saintess Lilim and demanding fealty. Her grand pronouncements are cut short as Peisha-chan zips in, impatiently wondering what's taking so long. Startled, Lilim plops down, quickly diverting attention to Tiemia, who now sports her own church attire. Tiemia beams, winking as she introduces herself as Sister Tiemia, much to Lilim's delighted admiration. Lilim can't help but praise Tiemia's adorable new look, while Tiemia basks in the compliments. Suddenly, Tiemia's expression shifts to one of dawning realization, a new idea sparking in her eyes. Tiemia excitedly grasps Lilim's hands, eager to reveal a surprise she has in store. The newly robed pair venture down a grand, sunlit corridor, shadowed by the imposing figure of a church knight. Lilim is taken aback to see Lugo, now clad in the stark white and gold armor of a church knight, his usual helmet still in place. Tiemia stifles a giggle at Lugo's mismatched ensemble, while Lilim notes the white robes are a trial requirement for him. Saintess Lisha glides towards them, acknowledging their completed transformation into church attire. Lisha clasps her hands, her smile radiant as she declares their new outfits suit them splendidly. With an inviting gesture, the saintess announces their first destination within the headquarters will be the chapel. The trio is led into a breathtakingly vast chapel, bathed in ethereal light streaming through a magnificent stained glass window. Lilim and Tiemia gasp in unison, completely mesmerized by the sheer scale and beauty of the sacred space. Lilim confesses her awe, admitting she's never witnessed such a grand chapel, as Tiemia curiously scans their surroundings. Their attention is drawn to an impressive painting on the wall, depicting a luminous, armored woman with a majestic phoenix. Lisha explains the regal figure in the artwork is Arat, the very founder of their holy order. Tiemia, ever inquisitive, points at the painting, questioning the fiery bird's role in the church's faith. A closer look reveals the magnificent phoenix, Venex, its plumage a blazing spectacle of gold and crimson. Saintess Lisha, with a knowing and slightly smug grin, seems ready to elaborate on the creature's lore. Lugo, ever the stoic expert, cuts in to identify the legendary creature as the Phoenix Venex. Lilim and Tiemia gasp, impressed by the mythical bird and its fabled healing powers. Lilim, ever practical, quickly muses that such potent healing might just put apothecaries out of a job. Lugo adds a chilling detail. This phoenix doesn't just heal, it regenerates and relentlessly seeks revenge. Through his imposing helmet, Lugo's glowing eyes underscore his assessment. Venex is an extremely troublesome bird. Lisha notes Lugo's surprising depth of knowledge, while Lilim and Tiemia exchange bewildered glances. Tiemia, captivated by the artwork's sheer beauty, enthusiastically declares her desire to be immortalized by the same artist. Tiemia, ever the optimist, connects legendary beings to blessings, hinting at her own potential for greatness. Her eyes sparkle with newfound ambition, a blush dusting her cheeks at the thought of becoming a legend. Inspired, Tiemia clings to Lugo's arm, vowing to redouble her efforts towards legendary status. Lilim and Lisha exchange amused glances, watching Tiemia's sudden burst of fervent determination. Lisha then shifts her attention to Lugo, playfully questioning his own aspirations for legendary fame. The saintess highlights Lugo's impressive knowledge and strength, suggesting he too could achieve legendary renown. Lugo, ever stoic, curtly dismisses any interest in such accolades, despite Tiemia's continued enthusiastic grip. Lisha, undeterred, suddenly clasps Lugo's hands, her expression earnest and persuasive. She passionately implores him to become a holy knight, a clear path to legendary status in her eyes. With unwavering zeal, Lisha urges Lugo to join the church's order, promising a future of legendary deeds. Lisha paints a glorious picture of Lugo immortalized in art beside the saintess, an idea Tiemia readily embraces. Lilim, hands clasped, contemplates the unexpected prospect of Lugo achieving legendary status. Lugo bluntly states his disinterest in fame, but Lisha retorts that interest can always be cultivated. Lisha, with fervent enthusiasm, urges Lugo to become a holy knight, even offering to customize his helmet in white. Lugo decisively rejects Lisha's persistent advance, pushing her hands away with a firm gesture. A stunned Lisha watches Lugo turn away, as he adamantly declares he will never join the Holy Knights. Tiemia and Lilim observe the sudden, forceful rejection with wide-eyed surprise. Lisha, visibly flustered, stammers, wondering if she somehow misread the entire situation. The saintess recalls her previous invitation for Lugo to join, as Tiemia looks on with curiosity. Lilim interjects, reminding Lisha that Lugo hadn't actually refused her offer during their initial encounter. Lugo, with an emphatic gesture, firmly restates his absolute refusal to join the Holy Knights. He then strides off, impatiently demanding Lisha lead them to the next destination, leaving her momentarily stunned. Lisha quickly recovers, attempting to redirect Lugo, explaining the trial initiation route is in a different direction. Lilim and Tiemia observe this exchange, a shared sense of unease passing between them as Tiemia notes something feels off. Tiemia whispers to Lilim, highlighting the contradiction. Lugo claimed prior acquaintance with Lisha, yet Lisha acts as if they've just met. Both Lilim and Tiemia adopt pensive expressions, deeply considering the implications of this strange inconsistency. The mystery deepens, prompting the silent question of what this peculiar behavior truly signifies.